Multi-tenant enables huge savings in operating expenses. Let's explore this important topic. The fundamental reason for this is pretty simple to understand. We reduce operating expenses by managing many databases as one. However, it's not quite so easy to quantify the savings, because it's unrealistic to expect simply to reduce DBA costs by the ratio of PDBs to CDBs. After all, some DBA activities remain at the PDB level. You still have the same number of users to manage, the same amount of data to load, the same number of queries to tune, etc. Here is a far more realistic way to reckon the savings. We start by modeling the life of an average DBA. This is a typical task breakdown over the course of a 21 working day month based on an 8-hour working day. There might be 3 days patching and upgrading, 2 days doing backups and recovery, half a day administering users, 4 days tuning, etc. Let's give the guy 3 days for vacation, sickness and training. Even though they're not productive from the DBA point of view, you still have to pay him for this time. The next step is to allocate each activity to either the CDB level or the PDB level. Patching and upgrading are CDB level activities, so we put a check in the CDB column. The same is true for backup and recovery. User administration, performance tuning, and data loading are all PDB level activities, so those check marks belong in the PDB column, and so on down the list. All the CDB level hours go to the consolidated column. All the PDB level hours, along with vacation, sickness and training, go to the individual column. And with these numbers, we see a 60-40 split between consolidated and individual hours over the course of the month. The key takeaway is this. It means that you can expect to reduce 60% of the operating expense by the ratio of PDBs to CDBs. Let's model this out for a consolidation of 100 databases. A key metric here is the average number of databases per DBA. 20 is a typical value for this metric across our customer base. 100 divided by 20 is 5. That means that we'll need 5 DBAs to manage these 100 databases. Now, if the typical salary of a DBA is $100,000, a rough estimate of the total cost of employment is twice that, or $200,000 per DBA, for a total annual staff cost of a nice round million. Taking these numbers forward, here's the $1 million spend on DBAs. We've previously determined that we can reduce 60% of that with multi-tenant, because we can manage many databases as one. 60% of $1 million is $600,000, which leaves $400,000 that multi-tenant is not going to help with. Now, if we consolidate those 100 databases as PDBs in a single CDB, we can reduce the $600,000 by that ratio 100 to 1. That is $6,000. Add this to the $400,000 that multi-tenant won't help with, and your total bill comes to $406,000. That represents a savings of roughly 60%. Now, in the paper referenced here, and cited with permission, IDC said that multiple total cost of ownership studies conducted by IDC have found that over 60% of the average cost of running a database over any 5-year period is represented by staff cost. Viewing this TCO breakdown graphically, and using the figures from the IDC study previously quoted, let's focus on the 60% of TCO represented by staff cost. On the right, we have the cost breakdown after consolidation with multi-tenant, based on the reckoning from the previous slides, the DBA monthly task breakdown, the allocation of costs to CDB level operations versus PDB level operations, and assuming a consolidation ratio of 100 PDBs per CDB. 60% of 60% is 36%, or very roughly 1/3. This suggests a decent rule of thumb, which is that, in staff costs alone, consolidation with multi-tenant will reduce TCO by about 1/3. These savings are represented by the red sector of the chart on the right. They are made possible by the ability to manage many databases as one in multi-tenant. Note that this is not possible when consolidating with VMs, where there is no reduction in the total number of databases to be managed. So mapping source to savings in this category of operating expenses, the source of the savings is that we can manage many as one. The benefits are that common operations are performed at the level of the CDB, allowing DBAs to focus on quality, not quantity. In turn, the savings are, in financial terms, you can reduce about 60% of OpEx by the ratio of PDBs per CDB. And importantly, this emphasis on quality tends to reduce the cumulative cost of lots of small errors.